What if I told you Rachel McAdams' performance as Regina George told a story about overcoming psychological distress, becoming a martyr for those you love, and then also letting go of those you hold most dear?
That is so fetch. Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
The first ever Mean Girls movie released on April 30th, 2004. Let me put that in your head. That was nearly 20 years ago. We had movies like The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and even Herbie Fully Loaded. But nobody talks about those movies today like they do the original Mean Girls movie. It's just iconic. But what if Regina was the true hero behind the 2004 hit film? I recently rewatched Mean Girls with this idea in mind, and it wasn't even October 3rd.
On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was.
It's October 3rd.
Regina George is the apex predator, the queen bee, and also the leader of the Plastics, all rolled up into one astonishing character I can't seem to rid my head of. I had a ton of fun studying this film with the idea of Regina being the hero. I love characters with shades of gray. They just prove to showcase some of the more interesting stories. Take, for example, another Paramount property, Avatar: The Last Airbender, both Zuko and Iroh. They're both characters who start out as villains, but then they became the most wise and prominent figures in the show. Could Regina George prove herself through redemption, or is she forever labeled a villain? We don't really know much about Regina, since the film's narrative is fostered towards Katie's inner monologue. In fact, the first bit of information regarding her comes through the form of high school gossip.
Regina George is flawless.
I hear her hair's insured for $10,000.
One time, she punched me in the face. It was awesome.
But the most critical details reside through Regina's actions, both good and bad. Take, for example, the infamous scene of Regina kissing Aaron Samuels right in front of Katie. All three characters were well aware of Katie's crush on Aaron. But why exactly did Regina kiss Aaron? It's something I always wondered even before my latest rewatch. Throughout the film, Regina proves to be a capable leader with tendencies to protect women close to her. Bullying Katie outright doesn't necessarily fit Regina's MO, especially since she just protected Katie from Jason's sexual advances and welcomed Katie into her home. Again, the assignment here is to see Regina as the hero. So what would guide her down this path to betray Katie's feelings? Could it be that she still had feelings for Aaron? That would be an easy answer. But then again, she winds up cheating on him with someone more long-term. So no, she had no intentions on revisiting that old relationship. Regina is the type to protect her own, and at this point in the film, I believe she already considered Katie to be a part of her social group. We also understand Aaron was Regina's ex, so there's some hidden details we aren't necessarily aware of. My theory is that Aaron hurt Regina so badly that she'd do whatever it took to deflect that pain from her friends, becoming a martyr to protect Katie. Or maybe I've been watching too much Attack on Titan lately, which is why I believe Regina was indeed trying to protect Katie in her own flawed way. I mean, think about it. We already know Regina protected Katie from Jason earlier on, and went as far as to call a fellow student's mother pretending to be Planned Parenthood, all in an effort to make Gretchen feel better. Regina is capable of almost anything to protect her pack, but most importantly, herself. She is the alpha, the apex predator, and that is what makes her dangerous, but also reliable. I'd say Regina is an intelligent, charismatic leader with plenty of room for improvement. Ultimately, she's a character in the gray, as previously mentioned, and that's what makes her feel more flawed, interesting, and relatable. But let's break down Regina even further than that. Quite simply, Regina is a high schooler with raging hormones. Obviously, this would cause a lapse in her judgment. Not to mention, she lives in a dysfunctional home and is constantly being bullied by her ex-best friend.
Let me tell you something about Janice Ian. We were best friends in middle school. I know, right?
It's so embarrassing.
That's right, I'm calling out Janice Ian, who is the real bully of North Shore High School. It was Janice's plot to have Katie, the new girl, infiltrate and terrorize Regina's social group.
Now, look, this isn't about hating her, okay? I just think that it would be like a fun little experiment if you were to hang out with them and then tell us everything that they say.
Let's not also fail to mention how malicious she treated Katie. Whether it was the mispronunciation of Caddy's name or asking Caddy to skip class to gossip about other students, I developed a further distaste for Janice when she scolded Katie for doing exactly what she told her to do in the first place. And just like Aaron, Janice shares a murky past with Regina. It was at this point the alarms started ringing. I can't blame Regina for cutting Janice loose, as she's always acting insufferable and belittles anything with a pulse.
Oh my God, that's Miss Norbury.
Oh, I love seeing teachers outside of school. It's like seeing a dog walk on its hind legs.
But at the same time, I'm fully aware of how difficult it can be to move on from someone you thought to be your best friend. Trust me, I just went through this myself a few years ago. It's when you reach the other side of that burden and finally cut ties with that toxic person is when you start to feel incredible and come into your own. Besides Aaron or Janice, who else would have the most amount of impact on Regina's life? For me, Mrs. George would have to be up for consideration. Regina's relationship with her mother isn't terrible or anything, but it's also not healthy, nor is it sustainable. Mrs. George would much rather be friends with Regina rather than a mother to her own daughter.
What has everybody been up to? What is the hot gossip? Tell me everything.
It may look like Regina has some sort of control over her mother, but from my point of view, Mrs. George is only offering an empty gesture that's stifling Regina's perspective growth. You can see this especially with Regina's sister dancing in front of the TV. There's not a lot of guidance in this household. Adding to this whole dilemma is the gossip revolving around her parents' potential divorce.
I mean, her parents totally don't sleep in the same bed anymore, if that's what you mean. Oh my God, don't tell her I told you that.
Personally, when I was a wee lad, I had experienced this conundrum twice, and both times were especially hard on me. Also made it easier for me to relate to Regina as a character. And yet, despite all these hardships, there's still one more person to account for. But before I go ahead and answer that, I just want to go ahead and say thank you to those of you who've made it this far into the video. My channel is still relatively small, so we don't have sponsorships or anything like that, but if you guys would consider taking the time to subscribe for more movie analyses, reviews, etc., I would greatly appreciate it. Also, not to mention, this video was inspired by the brand new Mean Girls movie, based on the Mean Girls musical, which was originally based on the original movie.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
Wrong. He was so wrong.
So it's a movie based on a musical, based on the original movie, and I have my review up for the brand new movie on my YouTube channel. Feel free to go check that out as well to help support the channel. Otherwise, let's get you guys back into the video. Regina's most difficult hurdle is herself. No matter what we go through in life, it's our own reactions that define who we are. Take, for example, the time Regina gets run over by a school bus after arguing with Katie.
Do you know what everyone says about you? They say that you're a homeschooled jungle freak who's a less hot version of me. Yeah, so don't try to act so innocent. You can take that fake apology and shove it right up your hairy...
Based on the movie, we could easily see Regina going after Katie for this. But instead, she listed the fault as her own and learned from the experiences led by Miss Norbury. Not to mention, after her recovery, Regina was able to channel her emotions in a healthy way by proxy of North Shore's lacrosse team, and she was even capable of leading them to victory, thus celebrating her as a person rather than a plastic. It's a happy ending for someone who's been through so much pain, both emotionally and physically after being flattened by a school bus. So to answer the question, is Regina George a redeemable character? My answer is undoubtedly 100% a yes. But what do you guys think? Is she forever labeled a villain? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you guys enjoyed today's video, leaving a like helps out a ton with the channel. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more movie reviews and movie essays like this. Thanks for watching. Austin out.